I always believed betrayal came with warning signs. Shifty glances, hesitations, a cold shoulder here or there. But when the knife went in my back, it was clean, silent, and expertly placed, and it was wielded by the one person I never expected, Maddie. My best friend since freshman year of college. The woman who knew my coffee order, my family drama, the name of the first guy who broke my heart. She was my roommate, my maid of honor, my emergency contact. And up until a week ago, she was also my co-worker at Dalton & Weiss, one of the fastest-growing marketing agencies in the city. We started as interns together, scrambling to prove ourselves. Late nights, cheap wine, and shared dreams of one day running our own division. I had no doubt we'd rise together. We even joked about our future office being side by side, but she didn't want beside me. She wanted instead of me. It all happened so fast. I had worked for months on a massive campaign for a major tech client. My strategies, my designs, my late night pitches. I was sure it was my moment. And when the promotions were announced, my hands were literally shaking in anticipation, but they called Maddie's name. Applause, smiles, congratulations, and she turned to me with that rehearsed look of surprise, mouthing, I had no idea, like she hadn't studied every bullet point of my proposal the week before. I couldn't breathe. It felt like someone had replaced the floor beneath me with air. I stood there, clapping, smiling through numb cheeks, my body moving on autopilot while my mind screamed. That night, I went home and cried until my voice gave out. The next day, I confronted her. I trusted you, I said, standing in the hallway, where we used to whisper about our future. Maddie just sighed. You're overreacting. Did you use my deck? My campaign notes? It's a collaborative office, she said with a shrug. You know that. She walked away like she hadn't just ripped out my heart and set it on fire. I went to Jonathan Dalton himself, the founder. I laid out the evidence, timestamps, emails, everything. He listened in silence, face unreadable. When I finished, he looked at me for a long time and said, "Thank you for coming to me." But nothing happened. No demotion, no apology. Maddie kept her promotion. And I was moved to a different department. Out of sight, out of mind. I wanted to quit. I almost did. But then Jonathan called me into his office late one evening. The building was quiet. My heels clicked against marble as I approached his door. He didn't offer me coffee. He didn't smile. He just slid a manila folder across his desk. I know what happened, he said. But the board has their hands tied right now. Politics. Optics. I opened the folder. Inside were outlines, plans, projections, for a brand new division. His eyes locked onto mine. I want you to build this, from scratch. Your vision, your leadership. I was stunned. You want me to run this? Jonathan leaned back in his chair. You've always had the fire. I saw it the moment you stepped into this building. It should have felt like victory. But all I felt was rage. Rage at Maddie. Rage at the system. Rage at myself for trusting her. But this was a chance. A clean slate. And I would use it. Not just to rise, but to prove that no matter how deep the knife went, I was still standing and sharper than ever. The next morning, I arrived at work before the janitorial staff. The hallways were silent, soaked in amber light from the rising sun. My footsteps echoed in the space that once made me feel powerful. Now, it only made me feel hollow. But I had a mission, a folder under my arm, a new beginning, even if it didn't feel like one yet. Jonathan Dalton's office was at the top of the building, a glass cube suspended in concrete, where silence and pressure coexisted. I had met him in passing during presentations, but this would be our first real one-on-one since the betrayal. I pressed a button for the top floor and took a deep breath as the elevator ascended. The doors opened to a small reception area where Marissa, Jonathan's stone-faced assistant, gave me a polite nod. He's expecting you. His door was already ajar. He stood at the window, looking out at the skyline, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a black mug. When he turned, there was no small talk, no greeting. Sit, he said, motioning to the seat across from his desk. I sat. He placed a stack of papers between us. Let's get to it. This division, what would you call it? The question caught me off guard. I hadn't thought of a name yet. Think faster. He replied, names matter. I swallowed. Velocity. Jonathan raised a brow. Why? Because I wanted to move differently, faster, more agile than the bureaucracy weighing down the other teams. Fewer hands, more action, less noise, more delivery. He nodded slowly, leaning back. Keep talking. I opened the folder and laid out my early ideas, campaign structures, hiring goals, client acquisition strategies. As I spoke, I watched his expression shift from neutral to something closer to approval, but his next words were unexpected. This will be off the books for now. What does that mean? I'm not announcing it yet. The board is still loyal to the familiar faces. I'm giving you 6 weeks to show results. Prove it works. Make them beg for it to be official. So I'm starting in secret? I asked. Jonathan smiled faintly. Isn't revenge best served that way? Something about that lit a fire inside me. He pushed over a single keycard. You'll have access to the 7th floor annex. It's empty. No one from your old department will be down there. It felt like being exiled and promoted at the same time. But I took the card. As I rose to leave, Jonathan added, don't focus on taking down Maddie. Focus on being undeniable. That's how you win. I walked out of his office taller than I had entered. The 7th floor was quiet and smelled like unused space. The lights flickered when I first entered, but after flicking the switch twice, everything glowed steadily. It wasn't glamorous. A long room, concrete floors, one glass-walled conference room, and a few desks covered in plastic sheets, but it was mine. I spent the first few days working alone, rebuilding old pitch decks, reaching out to connections who trusted me. I didn't mention Maddie's name. I didn't complain about the past. I simply built. Then I met Leah. She was a junior analyst from another firm who had just been let go. We'd crossed paths during an interagency workshop last year, and she had messaged me after seeing a vague LinkedIn update I'd posted, building something new. If you're hungry and fearless, DM me. She showed up with a notebook full of ideas and eyes full of ambition. I hired her on the spot. Within a week, I brought in 2 more people: Marcus, a creative director who had been quietly miserable under Maddie's leadership, and Sophia, a digital strategist who had been itching to break free from the red tape. We were a skeleton crew, but we were scrappy, smart, and fast. Velocity was alive. Meanwhile, Maddie was in headlines. She had taken full credit for a successful product launch. She smiled on panels. She posed for LinkedIn glamour shots with captions like, hard work always wins. But I knew the truth. And more importantly, so did a handful of clients. One day, an old client of mine emailed me directly. Heard you're doing something new. Let's talk. My heart pounded as I typed a reply. That meeting would change everything. But I wasn't going to just win back what was taken. I was going to build something better and let Maddie watch as I did. The meeting was set for Tuesday morning sharp, in a downtown cafe that smelled like toasted almonds and ambition. When I walked in, I saw him instantly. Michael Lerner, VP of a fast-growing e-commerce brand we had pitched 2 years ago. He had been one of my favorite clients to work with: detail-oriented, innovative, and brutally honest. We had built an easy rapport back then. And then I vanished from his radar, thanks to Maddie's strategic removal of me from all further interactions. But now, he was here. He stood up and shook my hand. Good to see you again, Ellie. Likewise, Michael. He didn't waste time. Word around the industry is, you're not where you used to be. I'm not, I said, stirring the coffee I barely touched. But I'm where I need to be. He leaned in slightly. Tell me about this new thing. Velocity, right? I smiled. Fast, lean, creative. We're not weighed down by politics or outdated methods. We deliver quickly, smartly, and with soul. Michael raised an eyebrow. Sounds good, but can you prove it? I slid a USB across the table. 2 sample campaigns. One for your fall launch, one for holiday. No fluff, no AI-generated nonsense. Just real strategy, real insight, real storytelling. He took it without a word. Then, after a pause, you always had edge. I'll be honest, Your former team, they've been sluggish. Confused even. Maddie's polished, but she's not. Sharp. I tried not to smile. I'll review this, he said. If I like it, I'll move forward. With you. And just like that, a spark became a flame. By Thursday, Michael had signed a short-term contract with Velocity. It wasn't massive, but it was high profile and symbolic. The moment our internal team heard, the atmosphere in the 7th floor annex shifted. Leah nearly cried. Sophia danced in the hallway. Marcus made a playlist titled Velocity's First Win and blasted it while mocking Maddie's inspirational quotes in Slack. But I stayed focused. This wasn't about pettiness. It was about precision. We work like machines. Pitched 2-3 more clients that week. Secured 2 intro calls. One of them was a cosmetics brand that Maddie's department had mishandled a year ago. Then came the email from Maddie. Subject: So, you're building something. I stared at the screen. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Instead of replying, I shut the laptop, let her wonder, let her sweat. That weekend, I took a breath, my first in weeks. I went home to visit my parents, had dinner with my sister, walked around my old neighborhood, thinking about how far I'd come from the girl who doubted herself through every college exam and internship assignment. And then Monday arrived and brought the storm with it. HR called me in first thing. When I entered the room, Jonathan was already seated. Marissa, his assistant, handed me a folder. Inside were screenshots, emails, Slack messages, voice memos, all from Maddie. All about me. She had been trying to dig up dirt, trying to imply I had stolen her ideas, misused company assets, and misrepresented myself to clients. She's getting desperate, Jonathan said calmly. Are these enough to fire her? I asked. He closed the folder. Not yet, but we're getting there. She's losing control and the board is noticing. I clenched my fists. She stabbed me in the back, I said. And now she wants to destroy what I've built. Jonathan gave me a long look. No, she wants to feel powerful again, but she's losing it. And if you keep going, keep delivering, she'll self-destruct. I exhaled. It wasn't about retaliation. It was about staying the course and letting the past unravel itself. The week after the HR meeting was a blur of motion. I doubled down on everything. Longer hours, sharper presentations, deeper strategy sessions. Velocity wasn't just operating, it was gaining momentum. Clients were noticing. Even some employees from Maddie's team were quietly reaching out, asking if we had space. We didn't. Not yet. But soon, Jonathan came to see us midweek. Not in a suit and jeans and sneakers. That alone made everyone stand up straighter. He toured the annex slowly, nodding at whiteboards, making comments on design boards. Then he pulled me aside. You've exceeded expectations, he said. Thank you, I said. But I'm just getting started. He smiled. Good, because I want to introduce you to someone. The next day, I found myself in a high-rise conference room downtown. Sunlight flooded in from 3 sides. Sitting across from me was Celeste Traeger, investor, founder, legend. Her firm had worked with some of the biggest disruptors in the business. And now, she was watching me with sharp curiosity. I've heard of Velocity, she said. And I've heard about the politics inside Dalton and Weiss. I raised an eyebrow. Politics come with any empire. She laughed. True, but empires fall. I'm more interested in revolutions. We talked for nearly 2 hours. About brand philosophy. About leadership. About trust. I don't invest in structures, Celeste said, sipping her espresso. I invest in people, and I think you might be worth it. That night, I didn't sleep. Again, but this time, it wasn't anxiety. It was adrenaline. By Friday, Velocity had signed 2 new contracts. One of them used to belong to Maddie. Word spread. I walked into the office Monday morning and found an envelope on my desk. No name, no stamp. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Careful. You're not as safe as you think. No signature. I froze. My first instinct was Maddie, but something about the handwriting, the tone felt different. I showed it to Jonathan. He Read it once and placed it on his desk. We'll increase your security badge access. Keep eyes on everything, but don't stop. This is what pushback looks like when you're winning. Still, I couldn't shake the chill in my spine. That afternoon, Leah burst into my office, practically vibrating with energy. Client X wants to renew early, she said. They're doubling their budget. I blinked. Are you serious? They said, and I quote, "You're the most competent team we've worked with since 2018. I leaned back in my chair, letting the moment sink in. Competence, loyalty, trust, all the things Maddie faked. All the things I had rebuilt from scratch. Later that week, Jonathan sent out a company-wide email. Subject: Velocity. Now officially am proud to announce that Velocity, under the leadership of Eleanor Hart, will become an official division within Dalton and Weiss. The success of her work and her team speaks for itself. My inbox exploded. Some congratulated, some asked for jobs, and some, like Maddie, stayed completely silent until the next day. She showed up at my office. Nice setup, she said, glancing around the NX. What do you want, Maddie? Her smile was tight. To remind you, empires fall, especially the ones built on borrowed ground. I stood slowly. This isn't borrowed. I earned every inch. She leaned in. Don't get comfortable. I didn't respond. I just let the silence say everything. As she left, I exhaled slowly. She was unraveling, and I was just getting started. The day began with rain. Not a downpour, but a persistent, tapping drizzle that coated the windows and made the office lights feel colder than usual. I stood by the glass wall of the annex, watching the streets below shimmer with reflections, when my phone buzzed. A new email. Subject: Urgent client issue. It was from Michael Lerner. My stomach tightened. I opened it, scanning quickly. Eleanor, I need to speak with you today. Something's off in the latest deliverables. Can we talk? Noon. We had never received negative feedback from Michael. I trusted my team fiercely, but I also knew how easy it was for even a small slip to become ammunition in the wrong hands. I forwarded the message to Leah and Marcus with a simple note: meet me in the war room. 10 minutes. Leah arrived first, breathless. I triple-checked the numbers last night. Everything looked perfect. Marcus followed, holding his laptop. I've got the source files. If there's an issue, it didn't come from us. We combed through everything, pixel by pixel, slide by slide. At the 30-minute mark, Leah frowned. This isn't ours. What do you mean? I asked. She pointed at one of the charts. This version, it's outdated. It's from 3 weeks ago. We submitted a different one. Someone switched a file. A beat of silence. Marcus muttered. Sabotage. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was there. The document Michael had received, it had been altered. Intentionally. My pulse pounded as I dialed Jonathan. He picked up on the second ring. Tell me. I explained everything. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, meet me upstairs, and bring the files. Jonathan's office was unusually tense. Marissa wasn't at her desk, and the hallway lights were dimmed. He gestured for me to sit. Then he handed me a folder, one I hadn't seen before. Inside were transcripts, emails, messages, Slack logs, between Maddie and an IT technician. Make sure the old file gets sent instead. She won't even notice. If anyone asks, it was a Dropbox sync issue. My hands shook. She compromised the client files? I whispered. Jonathan nodded, and she accessed folders outside her department. That's a security violation. Legal is reviewing now. My chest was tight. Why would she risk this? He folded his hands. Because you're winning, and she's losing. People like her don't go quietly. By the end of the day, Maddie had been placed on leave pending investigation. She didn't come to my office, didn't send an email. She simply vanished, escorted out of the building like a ghost in heels. The next morning, Jonathan held a meeting with the executive board. I wasn't invited, but I didn't need to be. By noon, a new email hit the company inbox. Subject: Leadership transition. We're proud to announce Eleanor Hart as head of Velocity and Strategic Innovation at Dalton and Weiss. Her leadership, resilience, and integrity have set a new standard for our company's future. Tears welled up in my eyes. I stood alone in the NX, staring at the screen. For a moment, I didn't move. Then I heard applause outside my door. Leah, Marcus, Sophia, others from the building. They had gathered smiling, clapping, some with tears in their eyes too. I opened the door and let them in. We celebrated. Not with champagne, not with confetti, but with hugs, with laughter, with shared war stories, because this wasn't just a promotion. It was a reclamation of trust, of self-worth, of purpose. That night, I walked out of the building alone. The rain had stopped. The city lights shimmered. I looked up at the glass walls above, remembering the day Maddie had taken what was mine, and then I looked ahead to what I had built, to what was now undeniably mine. Velocity. Not just the name of my team, the name of my rise.